Hey everyone, Smug Sneasel here, and welcome back to another installment of Critical Hit. I'm just gonna skip the intro and get to the point. Is Sonic Force's story more so bad or badly written? The answer is that it's badly written, that's it. A bad story is something where the individual components don't add up, there are a lot of gaping plot holes, there's thematic dissonance everywhere, plot points are introduced and dropped with no consequence, characters act out of character for no reason other than to further the story. Elements are only introduced to look cool and nothing else, and I could go on and on. But Sneasel, I hear you say, Sonic Forces has most if not all the problems listed. Now see, that may be partially true, but it doesn't reach the major thresholds of these problems. It more so skirts them. Because of that, I'd lean it more to being badly written than just bad. In this video, I'll go over what I think would make a much more engaging story of the game, while still using the basic story structure and plot elements of it. I feel it'll be more apparent that the story is salvageable as it is, if I add and only slightly modify it, rather than being forced to take a lot of things away to make it work. Oh, right. Spoilers for those who haven't played the game or whatever. Firstly, in the beginning, instead of Orbot and Cubot saying that Eggman is being serious this time, have them comment on how he's been working on this project for months and has devoted almost every waking moment to it. That shows that he's being serious through action instead of stating it outright. Doing so isn't going to invoke a response from us. In fact, saying that implies that he hasn't been serious about his other plans. I certainly know that the Eggman in Sonic Unleashed was serious. Anyways, after that, instead of starting the game with Sonic rushing through Green Hill, I'm sorry, I mean Sand Hill, have there be a cutscene that shows that the Eggman Empire activity has been rising all over the world, with Sonic investigating Green Hill's desertification at the moment, either by his own accord or by Tails' request. Oh, and explicitly show that it's Eggman's fault for doing it. It was never shown how he was actually making Green Hill a desert. Then, in the cutscene with Tails being attacked by egg pawns, instead of just cutting to Tails being a useless piece of garbage, instead of doing that, show Tails attempting to gather the civilians to safety, then have him get shot by the badniks to make him take some damage, so it's justified why he can't rise up against some simple egg pawns. Okay, I'm not gonna dwell on this for too long, because there's going to be a Tails portion that comes up later that I'm not going to like. I mean, technically you don't even need to go that far. Just show that he's tired from dealing with constant Eggman attacks. Something like that. Then, when Sonic shows up, have Eggman challenge him with Zavok. Have Sonic kick Zavok's butt, because Zavok was never really a threat, illusion or not. And then when he's about to beat him, have Metal Sonic show up and make Sonic deal with him instead. As he's fighting metal at high speeds, have him be surprise attacked by Chaos. It has to be a surprise attack, because Chaos Zero is not a threat for Sonic, especially at this stage. Sonic can defeat Perfect Chaos without Emeralds now. Then as he questions why Chaos is back, have the Phantom Shadow show up, and then have Sonic think that he's there to help, but then he gets attacked. Sonic will then question this without a given answer as they gang up on him and have Eggman show up infinite. Then have him show a little bit of his reality-altering powers, something he doesn't actually explicitly show in that cutscene. They just have the faster than Sonic comment that doesn't really make sense considering what we know now, and the readings don't make sense comment. Keep that last comment in though, maybe expand on it a bit. That would imply that his powers are not what they seem at first. Then have Eggman capture the unconscious Sonic and whisk him away in front of Tails, taunting him. Now, this is very important. Show the gradual takeover of the world. Not in comment implications, not in text, and not in a representation of red overtaking the world map. Actually show places being destroyed and remodeled in Eggman's image, people and mutants being captured, and maybe even show previous zones we know getting mechanized or destroyed. You wouldn't even need to develop separate assets for it, even though desolate and mechanized versions of previous Sonic stages would actually make the game more interesting. Just show Eggman surrounded by hard light panels showing off 2D images of the zones being taken over, then have him cackling wildly while all this is happening in a fade out or something. But most importantly, show that it's Infinite's power that's the main factor in this takeover. Remember that the other characters have taken on Eggman and his army before, but they wouldn't know how to deal with Infinite's Phantom Ruby power, especially with how he uses it in the Metropolis stage. Afterwards, if you're not going to show the characters coming together to join the Resistance, at least have a scene where, like, Vector is running back from a reconnaissance mission and enters the secret base with everyone waiting. We never see where that secret base is. Now, when they talk about resistance efforts, actually show the other resistance members in another part of the base or something. Have them be training and not being very good at it to show that they're not in the best of shape. And make explicit reference to the fact that they've gained the Wisp's help for the Wispon technology thanks to them being familiar with Sonic and hating Eggman. Then you bring Sonic's fate up. Have some characters bring up that they think he's dead, have some bring up that they think he's not, and then have Silver state that regardless if he is or not, they need to focus on what they can do without him. Now, the scene with Knuckles bringing the Rookie in, you could have Knuckles reference the fact that while the Rookie is cowardly, he/she is the most skilled with the use of the Wispons and the grapple. Maybe throw in a minor flashback cutscene with Knuckles noticing the Rookie's training results for good measure. That would give reason for the Rookie joining the main strike group, but still being known as the Rookie compared to everyone else. Oh, and mention they lost Tails, so it's harder to coordinate stuff without an expert in technology. Yes, they lost Tails. Tails didn't lose it in the original Japanese script. That was just an add-on for the English one. Big surprise. Sonic also wasn't tortured for months in the original script. Big surprise. Now, I could do a major change here with Sonic's fate not being known till the middle of the game, because revealing it early was a really stupid idea, but I promise to try and work with what I've been given as closely as I can. So instead, have a mini cutscene where Rouge infiltrates the Death Egg, or uses Gun's technology to place bugs around the fortress. Yeah, remember Gun? The writers didn't. Then have her reference that she's been overworked or that she can't do this as well as she used to because she doesn't have Shadow or Omega backing her up, thus making a reference that Omega and Shadow are MIA right now. I could talk about how the chemical plant is now a cargo station and they should have just made it to its own stage, but stage design gripes are different from story gripes in this case, so if anything I'll just make another video on that. Now, actually show Resistance members stealing the shuttle in a cutscene and show a scene of the Rookie's cowardice here. It'll work for later. Have the Rookie botch a stealth portion, or have them running from the Badnik guards, being nervous as the shuttle takes off like Vector implies in one of his later comments. Stuff like that. Now we cut to Tails. I despise this cutscene majorly, but as I said, I'll work with it without altering it too much. Have Tails comment about how lucky it was for him to find Omega, only for him to be in disrepair and Tails not being able to fix him in this situation. Then have Tails being attacked by Chaos, who sneak attacks him while he's working on Omega. That's right, a sneak attack again. Because Chaos Zero shouldn't be no problem for Tails either. Then have him flee and be pursued. As he's about to be attacked again, have Tails have flashbacks to the Sonic incident and have him notice the desolate landscape around him with the Death Egg robot copies destroying the city. Then have him cry out for Sonic as he loses hope. Now, if it were up to me, and a lot of people, Classic Sonic wouldn't even be here in this story. But since I'm sticking with things, have him save Tails like he does normally. Seeing Sonic will give Tails hope again, and then the cutscene plays out as stated. Even with this Sonic being from another dimension for some reason. Honestly, a split in the timeline thanks to Generations might do this series good, so I'm not going to give it too much flack. Plus, it's not the first time. Remember how Blaze and Eggman Nega were from another dimension? Then in Sonic 06, Blaze is from the future? Then in Rivals, Eggman Nega is also from the future? Before we get to the Death Egg cutscene, have the Rookie in the space shuttle with the other Resistance members and have them mention Eggman's new quote-unquote monster, Infinite, and then have the Rookie's backstory flashback. Also in the talk afterwards, Amy says that they don't know where Sonic is being held captive, even though in the cutscene where they first learned that Sonic was alive, Knuckles said that he was in the orbiting prison. The in that sentence implies that everyone already knows what the orbiting prison is. Rouge telling everybody that it's the Death Egg now makes no sense. Unless they specified that they didn't know its exact spatial location, this part just needs to be omitted. Now, on the Death Egg, have Sonic be really ecstatic that he's free now, which is thanks to the Rookie's efforts around the power station. Yes, that's why Sonic's cuffs came off and the lights went off. A lot of people don't know that. Remember that Sonic doesn't like being cooped up for too long, so externally tortured or not, 6 months without being allowed to run is torture for Sonic in and of itself. After defeating Zavok, who, by the logic of the Phantom Ruby as we see, shouldn't even be able to talk, show that he, the Rookie, or the Resistance, has set the other captives of the Death Egg free, and they scramble to overtake the security forces and steal the other transport shuttles to get everybody off. Then have the Rookie not pay attention and get attacked, thus dropping their Wispon, and then they're surrounded by the Egg Pawns. Wait, are those things called Egg Pawns? I don't know, the Egg Soldiers, the Egg incredibly boring designs, whatever they're called. I'm just going to call them Egg Pawns in this case. Now, they should still have their grappling hook by this point, but I'd say their fear would be getting to them. To supplement this, have way more security forces close in on them than like 5 bots only. Then, have Sonic express way more elation at seeing or hearing his friends. Remember that, after the events of Lost World, Sonic should be more appreciative of his friends. And even then, 6 months without contact while being cooped up? More emotion, less snark, please. I'm sure that Sonic doesn't see his friends for a long time on a regular basis because of his dislike in staying in one place for too long, and the distance of his runs, but the situation here clearly calls for more shown attachment. Now, when Knuckles wants the munitions factory destroyed, have him send other members of the Resistance. Maybe even a main one like Espio to go and aid in the destruction. I mean, he wouldn't need to show up in the level per se, but it makes little sense that such a big mission is given to the Rookie to run with Sonic alone. They don't have that much faith in the Rookie because of the cowardice part, like Vector said. In fact, it doesn't make sense for Knuckles to be the leader at all. If anything, Eggman would just trick him into giving up or something. But as I said, I'm working with a story. It's gonna get harder from here on out, but I'm gonna stick with it. Knuckles mentions he can send reinforcements if Sonic wants, but Sonic says that he and the Rookie are enough. Now, I wouldn't have the reinforcements be a choice, but rather a necessity. Having Knuckles send the Rookie with Sonic as the main strike force is a sign that he really sees a lot more potential in the Rookie than everyone else. However, this is his/hers first mission running with Sonic. By basic logic, there's no way the Rookie should be able to keep up for their first time. I'm not even going to mention the double boost part and how that doesn't make sense. Anyways, actually show the pyramid being disabled or blown up. Running past a goal point does not immediately imply destruction, you know. I'm looking at you, Death Egg. But more importantly, before that, show a short cutscene with them attacking the heavily guarded reactor. Then have the Rookie get scared enough to hesitate, and have Sonic do his little pep talk that is alluded to later, though we never actually see it happening in the normal game. Sonic should be going to the Mystic's jungle to help Silver fight Infinite right about now. Have someone mention what Silver and the other Resistance forces were doing there in the first place. Say that they were on a mission to liberate the place from Eggman's forces, or something simple like that. During Silver's fight with Infinite, make Silver do more than just ram into him. His main power is psychokinesis, not flight. We've seen Silver's potential in Sonic Generations. He should be able to take on Infinite by himself, honestly. But that aside, working with the story, have Silver be bewildered and overwhelmed by Infinite's reality warping, thus allowing him to get the upper hand. Because remember, Infinite himself isn't that strong compared to everyone else. It's the Phantom Ruby creations that give him that much more power and versatility. Now for the lead-in for the boss fight. If Sonic and Silver were to team up to take on Infinite and defeat him, that'd be great. But instead, if we're having Sonic defeating him alone, then remove the line that talks about Sonic being stronger than his previous data and Sonic comparing himself to mechs. That made no sense. So, Infinite thinks that he's too good for Sonic after he gets a better friend for a while and then he flies off. That actually plays into the story later where Eggman lambasts him for his classical villain cockiness. But back to Tails and Classic Sonic. Now what I wanted is for modern Sonic and the Resistance to attack Eggman's bases and fight Infinite, while Tails and Classic Sonic go on a, classic adventure, and chase and defeat Eggman directly until the two stories collide late in the game. But again, following the story, have to keep saying that. So, the Infinite cutscene plays out as normal with the only major difference being that Eggman experiences more bewilderment at Classic Sonic's existence. Oh, and don't make him run away saying, "I don't have time for this." Cut that scene out. Because while it makes more sense for him to say that in the context of him working on his master plan, it doesn't make sense in its abruptness, though in my case it wouldn't be as abrupt, and the fact that Eggman stops to have a boss fight with you. Also, have him say during the boss fight that he had enough resources from his new factories to build a new Egg Dragoon on the fly, which is why this model is so flimsy. And have Eggman's dialogue about exceeded power estimates for his machine come after the Dragoon is revealed, because it doesn't make sense where it's put. I doubt the buzzsaw exceeded his expectations. When Eggman is defeated, still have his Eggmobile function enough to hover multiple feet in the air. It makes no sense that he was stuck powerless on the ground and they did nothing to him. Tails said it himself, beat Eggman, the war is pretty much over, Infinite notwithstanding. A little tidbit by the way, don't make SBO reference Seaside Hill if you're not even going to show it. That's just mean. Skipping to the part where Tails tries to find Sonic in Mystic Jungle, Rouge says that the system has picked up 2 biological life readings, and so Knuckles sends the rookie to investigate. Now remember that the Resistance Army was in that area. Why not instead say that their screens detected Tails on an unknown life form? You know, because they don't know who Classic Sonic is? Then again, they could mistake him for Sonic from a long-range monitor. So in that case, when they report that Sonic and Tails are there, because Sonic is back at the base, Mission Control would find it suspicious and so send the rookie to investigate. Though in a normal military move, they would just send their closer forces to do so. But whatever. Oh, wait a minute. Amy says that in the level. Never mind then. Have the rookie pick up the prototype Phantom Ruby outside the lab, and then have Tails point out the Ruby prototype, thus giving it more importance and thus a good reason to hold on to it. Secondly, in the cutscene afterwards, have Sonic comfort and reassure Tails even a little bit. Saying, "You worry too much," is quite a jerkish thing to do. Sonic is aloof, he's not distant. Remember that he believes in the real superpower of teamwork. In the Shadow cutscene, that should have been a boss fight, have Sonic not just stand there when Shadow attacks. Seriously, that was pathetic. Secondly, give any explanation to why Shadow only showed up now. It's been 6 months since the start of the takeover, and Shadow is supposed to be linked with Rouge thanks to their gun connection. Where was he, and why didn't Rouge know? Furthermore, if Infinite was using him as a copy soldier, there's no way that none of the Resistance wouldn't have encountered Phantom Shadow in the 6 months of war. This is the first gaping plot hole that I can't fix and still keep in tandem with the story. But at least I'll add something by saying that Shadow was working to help secure the populace around the world with Gun, and that he found Omega recently and sent Omega back to the base for repairs. Sort of what was alluded to in his original mission in the Shadow story before the Infinite incident. Anyways, Instead of having Shadow say his normal lines, have him say that while the replicas aren't truly alive, their power can potentially be as formidable as the originals. The potentially part of that sentence is important, because some of them require multiple hits, aka the ones that are fought in the boss fights, and others can be taken down in one good hit, aka the ones that are fought in the cutscenes. And that also includes the ending ones. If anything, I'd make a distinction that the main four that were seen at the beginning of the cutscene had a lot of Infinite's focus put into them. So much so that they could easily act on their own. Furthermore, the Zavok that was guarding Sonic had the most focus, enough that he could talk. Not only that, but in this kind of story structure, it would make more sense for the Metal Sonic boss fight to be the actual Metal Sonic, but enhanced with illusionary attacks by the Phantom Ruby. Kind of like what Sonic sort of alludes to. But I'm skipping a bit ahead. Now, onto the infamous Operation Big Wave cutscene set. Firstly, either cut out Knuckles saying that he came up with the plan in a minute and a half, or have him keep that a secret. Seriously, why is he Commander again? Then, show a cutscene with the main forces entering Metropolis via the dropships, and that includes the Sonic friend characters. This isn't needed per se, it's just that for a big attack on the place, we just get thrown into the level. Furthermore, if it were up to me, I'd add to the MIDI cutscene in the middle of the level by showing the Resistance forces dealing with the massive Infinite Illusion enhanced Eggman Empire reinforcements. Also, change the line about 80% of their forces being wiped out. Say that 80% were disoriented by the Phantom Ruby and are suffering losses. There's no way they'd be able to carry on with only 20% of their original main strike team and still make it to that final confrontation at the end of the game. Also, no one would follow Knuckles' orders again if they lost that many. Not that they ever should have been doing so in the first place. In fact, he would be lynched for this. Let's not get off topic. In the Infinite cutscene that comes after, when Infinite looks at the destruction, actually show the destruction he's observing. Oh, and also change his location to the Metropolis power plant top floor or something. Not only does it make more sense for the boss fight arena, but in addition, it makes the rookie finding him there make more sense as well. There was no established place that the rookie was heading for in the preceding cutscenes, so having them go to a central power plant makes sense. Now, as for the Sonic pep talk flashback thing, the Arsenal Pyramid pep talk that I suggested earlier would be used here, instead of it being a random pep talk in a vacuum. Anyways, after the boss fight, where the rookie gets the better of Infinite temporarily, don't have Infinite immediately have the rookie on their knees by the time he leaves. He's already been remanded once for doing so. Doing it twice just makes him look really stupid. Also, add dialogue that implies that Infinite somewhat holds small kinship or admiration for the rookie for rising up out of his weakness, kinda like he saw himself doing in his flashback. In fact, if you can, interject a tiny bit of it with his early fight with Sonic, but have him be a bit more condescending about it there, with lines like, "You still have a long way to go." In the next map cutscene, change Silver's line about the Phantom Shadow being as strong as the real Shadow to potentially as strong, like I said before. And then make the 10 terabytes of selfies thing like 1 terabyte. Seriously. I'd have Tails reference some old mechs and plans in more detail. That'd be great fan service if he found prototype plans for the Egg Hawk. Okay, minor preference changes done now. Skip ahead and there's a line where Amy says that Knuckles is too easily distracted to work as a distraction for Eggman, but then says that as a commander he needs to stay at the base. Now, this is just a problem with Knuckles being commander, not making a lick of sense in the first place, but since that's a recurring point, I can't do much to change it. Except, get rid of that line, don't explicitly mention it about Knuckles being distracted, or just something else. Almost anything else. It just lampshades something that doesn't make sense in the first place, and just laughs it off like a haha joke, when that's one of the things that's, core for the storyline. Before the Green Hill Zone distraction, there needs to be something established that makes Eggman care enough about it to be distracted from his normal operations. Maybe add in a line that says that this is one of the major mech production plants in the world. Also, add a cutscene showing Sonic destroying the Death Egg's power core or something. All he does is run past the goal without doing a lot in the level to affect the structural integrity of the station, and then it just cuts to it blowing up. In the next part of the cutscene, have Eggman say that a tactical retreat isn't running away if you have a major end-all plan. Infinite's displeasure gets met with a "shut up and just follow me," and nothing comes of it. Now, in the infamous no space scene, I'd actually leave most of it alone. What I'm doing is adding stuff. Firstly, add a scene and/or a boss fight where classic Sonic fights Infinite, weakening the power of the null space, and then add a scene with Sonic and the Rookie talking in null space. I'd say talking with massive quotations because the Rookie doesn't talk, but have it so that the Rookie doesn't lose hope, which would signify their full growth into a brave warrior. And then have the Phantom Ruby prototype affect the null space, causing cracks to form between the dimensions. Then have the level start with a double boost through the cracked dimensional hole. After that, change the world map dialogue to a normal cutscene, since it's kind of important with what they're saying about Classic Sonic's fate, but Classic Sonic doesn't even show up in the comm screen, so it's kind of weird. Now for the infamous war scene. There's no build-up or anything. Time for a change. Have Knuckles rally the ground and air forces against the fortress defense, only to find that Infinite has made scores of the main four Phantoms. Have them steadily progress towards the fortress in a mad rush, and have the Sonics in the lead. This is where them specifically talking about the potential of characters to be as strong as the originals comes into play. Because the Ruby is creating so many at once, acting individually, it's stretching its power. Maybe have Shadow or Rouge talk about that. And now for the actual fighting. Look guys, I know animating this stuff is hard, but if you're going to do it, don't do it flimsily. Sonic should be boosting through the forces, and maybe even using non-weaponized wisps for transformations. Have Shadow use Chaos Control, Chaos Spare, or Chaos Blast, not light pushing. Have Silver do more than just hold 3 enemies at a time and then cut away from the impact that the other characters make when they hit. There are a lot of ways that this can be improved, but to make things easier, I will refer to the new IDW Sonic comic for how fight choreographies should go. That comic is so good, buy it now! Anyways, have Infinite show up while the Eggman forces are attacking, and then start to disorient everyone with further illusions, only to be stopped by laser fire from a hovering Omega who has just dropped from a gunship. Yes, I'm making it so that Gun brought reinforcements with their mechs. Have Rouge or Shadow remark that they didn't expect Omega to be fixed so quickly. Remember that I made it that Shadow found him and delivered him to Gun much earlier. Now, during the Sun cutscene where Tails helps the Rookie come up with a plan, have Tails already be with the Rookie instead of randomly flying in to comment on the Ruby prototype that he had no way of knowing was reacting from a distance. In addition, alter the scene during the next level where Knuckles says, "You're a real soldier now, Rookie." That implies that what the Rookie accomplished before didn't necessarily make them a real soldier. Saying that they're a true hero instead, and omitting the now part, would be better. And in the cutscene where the sun is dissolved, don't have the characters look up at the sun. It's a sun. Seriously, that's a bad idea. Have Infinite in the next confrontational cutscene be way more winded than he seems normally. In my idea, the first part of the boss fight would be Infinite trying to recharge his energy in a force field while Phantom clones attack you. Why I say this is because it seems too convenient for the Phantom Ruby to be recharged so quickly after making so many enemy forces and a sun. During the second part of the boss fight where the Rookie joins in, have Infinite ramble on more in depth about how relying on others is useless and just makes you weak. This is important for when I get to the Shadow story. Oh, and have the impact of the double boost and Infinite dropping to the ground have more oomph to it. Now, in Infinite's Lost cutscene, have him break down more, similar to how he breaks down in Shadow's story. Have him be unable to process that he lost to the power of friendship, something he considered useless. have him unravel when the thought comes to his mind that both Sonic and the Rookie are stronger than him. And don't make Sonic's comment about friendship be so on the nose. The majority of people playing this game aren't 6-year-olds, Sega. Instead, have Sonic talk in depth about how Infinite runs away from reality by surrounding himself with illusionary phantoms that do exactly what he says, but have no heart and soul, and just no real substance, while Sonic and his friends made a trust that's real. Have Eggman notice Infinite's loss and activate a machine that draws the Phantom Ruby into the main spire, disintegrating Infinite as he himself becomes a phantom. Make that last part very clear. In the classic Sonic Fortress level, alter Amy's line about having two Sonics being so dreamy. I mean, seriously, that's a young Sonic. That's kinda creepy. I mean, Amy is canonically a tad younger than Sonic in the first place. Heck, in the comic, she aged herself up using magic. But still, just change the line to say that even this Sonic is super cool and amazing, or something. And speaking of Amy's lines, her line in the last tag team stage about Infinite being sad and lonely seems really forced. And the line acts like Infinite was an entirely artificial creation like Shadow when he's not. But you know, if he was, that'd give even greater potential for a dynamic story. Now for the pre-final battle cutscene. Instead of Tails only hearing about the enemies multiplying over the transceiver, actually show it. And don't bother have Rouge list off the confirmed sightings. Everyone knows about the main four. Instead, have a report saying that Infinite is now a phantom that's being multiplied like the rest. And again, you have to show it. Now, Tails' lines here are a bit confusing at first when he says that the Ruby is invulnerable. So instead, have him say that Eggman has somehow found a way to keep the power supply perpetual while it's inside the Death Egg robot. Make Eggman explain how he found and studied the Phantom Ruby, because that wasn't explained in the story despite it being important. Also, have Eggman talking while in the new Death Egg robot with some final boss banter. Have him lament about how he finally had the world in his grasp and he should have won. Before Classic Sonic starts fading away, show the remaining forces scouting the fortress and cleaning up after the battle, and make the main forces have a conversation, then notice the Classic Sonic is fading. Also, get rid of the line where Sonic says that he's sure they'll see him again. Purely because of my preference for that not to happen once more. Oh, and the most important thing, never, under any circumstances, have Tails or anyone else say the words "true dat" ever again. Have the monitor show more details of the desolation caused by Eggman, with the Rookie taking notice. Then when the Rookie tells Knuckles that they're leaving, don't have Knuckles sound disappointed. It makes little sense in the context and the chosen words. In fact, cut out Silver saying that there's still so much to do after Knuckles suggests going home. Rather, have the Rookie saying that they're going to travel the world to help clean up inspire Silver and the others to devote time to do so instead of going home to relax like Knuckles suggested. Also, Tails' speech is really on the nose. Have him instead state that while Sonic's return pushed the Resistance to win, the help of Classic Sonic, the Rookie, and the team effort of everyone else is what pulled through, and so they need to continue doing so in their own way so they don't have to almost fully rely on Sonic just to have a chance for a future. Oh, and that last scene is fine. Just fine. But we're not done. There's also Shadow's story. Firstly, and this is big, don't have the story take place 1 month prior, then advance the story immediately after by going further into the past. So, enemy territory should be the second level, and thus there would be no disconnect. I get what they were going for, but it just doesn't work. Secondly, even though this would be the first scene of the Shadow story now, there should be a cutscene before the Eggman's facility level that shows Eggman working on the Ruby, or show how he discovered the Phantom Ruby, especially if you're going to make the Mystic Jungle the location where it was. It is Mystic after all, and it's where the lab is located, so that would help. It would also eliminate the need for the explanation in the Death Egg robot cutscene that I suggested earlier. Now, skip a bit ahead. to him making a huge, heavily fortified secret lab in the jungle, and mentioning the Jackal Squad that he hired to protect the place along with the mechs, being the finest mercenary group he could find. You could even have some dialogue between the Jackal Squad like in the comics. Then, have Shadow burst through their defenses and take them out easily. Then you start the level. The only real gripe I have with Eggman's dialogue is that his comment about Shadow still being alive comes way too quickly after frantically yelling at one of his subordinates to stop him. Also, asking if he was still alive makes it sound way too optimistic about the possibility that Shadow could be dead after he easily broke through the main defenses. Now, in the cutscene after, have Infinite be a little bit more ticked off about his squad being destroyed so easily, since he prides himself on strength. Show that through his words. And I kinda want to keep the "I am not weak" bit in. It's meme-worthy and hilarious. It's a Sonic game after all. But I do think that his breakdown could have been written a little better. Also, why bother even hiding his face? I mean, it's not like what's under the mask has any significance story-wise, especially since they never unmasked him in the main story. Heck, the preliminary comics even fully show what he looks like. And on that note, Infinite getting his mask is too quick and underwhelming. Show him going to Eggman and begging to be made stronger through modification, and have Eggman ready to dismiss him until he gets the idea of how to incorporate the Ruby's power. Then, show Infinite weathering through many experiments while the dialogue about him leaving his weak former self and his weak squad mates behind shows up on screen. That's when you show him the mask afterwards. Now there'd be a time jump to the enemy territory level. Also, Infinite's talk to Shadow after that level should not be a world map cutscene but a normal one. In fact, the one after the virtual reality level should also be a normal cutscene. They leave way too much implication and it's to their detriment. Now in the last talking cutscene with Rouge, have Rouge actually mention the attack on Green Hill rather than it being seen through text only. Remember that the showing of Eggman's initial attacks is in the main story, so there's no need for it here. Lastly, if you're going to play the normal beginning cutscene again, edit it so that it comes more from Eggman and Infinite's perspective. Show their dialogue and thoughts before the fight with Sonic. And after Sonic collapses, have Infinite muse to himself mentally about being the most powerful being on Earth. So, that was 10 pages of notes. It's like I was back doing a university assignment. You know, the type where you aren't allowed to plaster references everywhere to pad out page length. Anyways, what do you think about my ideas? Think you can do better? Post what edits you'd make for the story in the comments section, and then we can have a grand discussion. See you guys in the next video.